I begin to touch you and let it, and it never seemed to be the right time. Started to give up, down to the limit, and then you change your mind, and we begin to rock, steady, steady rocking all night long. And we begin to rock, steady, rocking.
The community was very close. I mean, everybody looked out for everyone, and you knew everybody in the community. And if you were out playing somewhere at another one of your friends' house and you did something wrong, well, by the time you got home, your parents had already gotten the word.
Mm.
Okay, they got the word before you got home. So you had to be ready to explain yourself to, for justification for what you had done. But I want to back up to the church uh, part I was speaking of.
Oh yeah.
One of the fondest memories I have was of my grandmother, Grandma Laura Pemberton, where her house was there close by to us, and every Sunday she'd have to walk by our house to get to the church.
Mm-hmm.
And she would go to Sunday school every Sunday, and then she'd walk back. And on her way back home, she was always stopped at our house to sit down and talk with my mother and talk with us. So I had real fond memories of my grandmother, Grandma Laura. And as I grew up and got into, I guess, into middle school and into high school, I would visit her every day. When I came home from school, I'd go over to her house, sit there and ask her if it was anything that she needed or anything that I could do for her. Especially in the wintertime, I would go out, I'd cut the wood, bring the wood in the house, put it in a little box by her stove in her bedroom,
Hmm.
and then we'd just sit there and talk.
Well, I'm the eighth kid out of nine. I remember as a kid, just kind of like a happy-go-lucky kid. I don't remember worrying about anything like kids today worry about a lot of things. I don't remember really having a care, but just knew I had, my parents made us be very responsible. So even though I was the eighth kid out of nine, I still had to work. I still had to do work around the house. Respect was demanded. There was no such thing as talking back. I did get to do a lot more things than my older siblings got to do, but as far as respect and responsibility, it was demanded. It was, and my parents. What I remember about my parents, they didn't threaten you. They weren't screamers or hollers. They just said, "This is what I want you to do. And if you didn't do it, the next time you was paying the consequence." There was no discussion about, today you hear parents say, "Did not tell you, did not tell you, did not tell you." If my mother or my father said, "Did not tell you," that's the time you were one time and you were getting the consequence at "did not tell you." So there was never any threatening or anything. But I remember as a kid, my oldest sister, Loretta, um, got married when I was 6 months old. So I never remembered her as my sister. And I remember as a kid, my mom always saying, "We're going over your sister's house." And in my mind, I could never understand how she could be my sister because I never remembered her living in the house. And I couldn't relate to that. And I never felt like comfortable around her as a kid, like I did around my other siblings. So I felt like I had to listen to her. And so I'm like, how could she be my sister? I felt like I had to listen to her, and I didn't really understand it until I got older. Yeah, so I remember, my older brother, he left when I was young, but I do remember him being in the house. But Loretta, I don't remember at all. My dad, he was a mechanic by trade. Um, from what I understand, he was born in Tunstall, Virginia. He moved up to New Jersey, I think sometime after his dad passed away. And he
Okay.
came to live with my Uncle Ples, who was Grandma Laura's brother. And he owned a bar and an inn. And my dad came up and worked with him and lived with him, from what I was told. And you know, my dad was, you know, a jack of all trades. He was like I said, he was a mechanic by profession, but he was the farmer, he was the plumber, he was the cook. My father knew how to do everything, and you don't find people that can do things like that today.
Up, and where did you grow up?
Well, um, we were brought up in Southeast DC project housing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were a lot of us, you know, 5 of us, and mom and dad were from the country. Mom being from North Carolina, and of course, dad from Virginia. And just learning city folk was kind of tough for them and us, but they took good care of us. Very fortunate enough to grow up and get out and do what we've done. Very fortunate, yeah, to have the parents that we had.
Oh, definitely, definitely. What was there, did you ever experience, I know you grew up in DC, like in that area, but did you ever experience living in any of those places where your parents were from, like Virginia or North Carolina?
Yeah, that was one of the fortunate parts of it. During the summer, we would
Mm-hmm.
always spend our summer in the country, either North Carolina or Virginia. Uh, Maybe a month and a half in each place,
Mm-hmm.
which was very fortunate, that we learned country life when we were exposed to other things other than our surrounding area. So that helped a lot.
School was pretty interesting. I was one of the first to go. I didn't go to the one room school that was out here. Barbara was the last one to go out there. And when I started school, it was the new portion of George Watkins High School,
Mm-hmm.
elementary, because they bought all this one room school into Watkins, into one location. That was back in 1956. And we had basically the same teachers that my brothers had all through high school. And most of those teachers stayed with us, stayed in the county once they got here. My first grade teacher was Miss Coleman, and I think we all had Miss Coleman. The whole family had Miss Coleman. And she lived in the neighborhood, I think. I would say that she didn't live too far from here. In fact, her relatives did. And then our pastor at the church was one of my teachers, Reverend Boykin. He was my history teacher in 7th grade, I think, maybe 8th grade. But I consider my teachers and the education that we had here in the county was remarkable for those
Mm-hmm.
days, because the teachers cared about you and they look after you and they wanted you to strive, and the teachers wanted you to do better than they did. So they poured into us, and it wasn't that anything else for us to do like the kids have now, all these other gadgets and things to do. So when you came home from school, it was homework, chores, and dinner and bed, you know. So you didn't have to worry about too much TV, because we didn't have a TV until 1963. And Lawrence went to the Navy.
Right.
So we wanted to look at TV. I definitely had a TV, but you would have to go over to her house or up on, we used to call up on the corner. And she lived up on the corner and watch TV. And sometimes we'd go up there on Sunday evenings and walk back to go see the Ed Sullivan show or Bonanza or something like that. But schooling for us, and I felt that it was really good when I went off to college for what I had been taught, and even that when they integrated the school. and I was a part of the first class to go to full integration in
Right.
1969. Barbara was the last class at Watkins. So I was the first, we were part of that class. And those students, they couldn't believe the education that we had got. I mean, they at New Kent High School, they thought our teachers were just too tough on us. We had learned a lot. And then when we went to college, when I went to college, Hilda and I was saying like, oh my God, these kids didn't learn what we did in little old New Kent. So, what's going on?
Well, that is true. That is true. But I always felt like I was singled out in school. Like no matter how well I did, I couldn't get, to the high reading group or to the high math group, no matter how well you did in class. And I remember a lot of times the teachers discouraging you by not calling on you if you knew the answer. I'll give you an example, a specific example. I think I was in second grade and we were having a spelling lesson. And the teacher was telling us about the letter Q. And she was saying that every time you have a Q, it's followed by a U. And I'm the kind of person still to this day that challenges and thinks about everything. And I'm thinking in my mind, there's got to be a word that has a Q with no U. It's got to be. So I'm like processing this and trying to figure this out. And then it dawned on me. So I raised my hand and she's like, well, what do you want? That's how they talk to someone.
My.
Yeah, what do you want? I said, I know, and I'm scared. I'm really shy, I'm really, really shy. And I said, I know a word that has a Q with no U. And she said, what is it? And I said, Iraq. And she was angry. She was very angry. So I do remember that. And I remember like if we got our pictures taken, they would comb the little girl's hair and they would skip right past. I was the only black girl in the class. They skipped right past me. It was just little, they call them microaggressions now.
Oh,
Things
yeah.
like that going on. Yeah. Yeah.
All his siblings loved him, and he expressed that love to us, mom and dad. And I guess we probably had an unusual future because we were probably the poorest people in the neighborhood. We were so poor we didn't know we were poor.
That's the good kind.
Yeah, and we did everything together. Mom didn't, and when I look back over it, Mom used to, in the morning, in the summertime, we would go outside and after breakfast, and she would let us stay out there all day. As siblings, we just learned how to get along. We fought together. She never knew it. We did things together, and just a basic fellowship developed out of that. And we kind of got their skills as a result of that. We all are giving, and you know that you're a giver also. So that's and I remember my dad having a rather tragic accident. And I remember how good the people were to us. We never wanted for anything. And people of all races came and assisted us and prayed for us and did everything for us. And he was never distressed about that. He overgrew that. He was never at the point where he didn't think he would ever work anymore, but he had the desire to work again. And the good thing about him, he taught us a lot. Boys, he taught us a lot of things. He wasn't a real talkative person. When I was a kid, he may have become that later on when your mom came along. But he taught us a lot of things, and a lot of things that he wanted us to know as men. He actually took us to some of those places that we shouldn't go. And I just got to tell you, I never wanted to go back when we left. He'd take my brother Jimmy and I.
Yeah, a lot of them. One I can tell you in particular, just the other day, he was in my class. He couldn't pass the high school proficiency test. You have to pass the test to get your diploma.
Yeah.
And so I was working with him to do that. And they put them in my class if they couldn't pass it. My job was to get them to pass it. So, his name was, oh God, why did I forget his name just now? It'll come to me. But anyway, I saw in the local newspaper in that township that he's going to be the principal to the school.
What?
I know.
So now he's principal.
Nick Solomon. There it is, Nick Solomon. Yeah, he's going to be the principal. Where he was a student, where I used to teach him. I'm like, that's
Isn't
great.
that something?
To the one room school with Tunstall. It is a community center now, but I did go to Tunstall elementary school, I guess it was. No, Tunstall School. I don't think it had a label because there were all grades there.
Oh,
So I think it was maybe 5 of us in first grade, and I don't remember the rest. But we all the grades were in the same building. It was a one room school. I remember that. That was fun.
what made it fun? What made the one room school fun?
Well, you were with all of your family pretty much. And everybody you knew everybody in the class. And, you know, with us being first graders, we didn't have to do any hard work. You know, we didn't have to make the fire or bring in the wood. You know, all we had to do was show up.
So did the other grades have to do that with it being a one room school? Were they required to make a fire and all of that?
Well, you
The
know, with
older-
the teacher, but they had to make sure the wood was there, and you know, and she would cook and stuff on the stove. It was fun. I had fun in school from grade 1 all the way through 12.
You must have been partying. You must have been the fun person at the school. I have seen some pictures now. Weren't you a cheerleader?
Yes.
See, I knew
Yes.
that you was why did you become a cheerleader?
I liked it. I was the
Yeah.
captain of the cheer squad the whole time, from 9th grade to 12th grade.
Okay.
And I played in the band,
What did you play in the band?
saxophone.
Oh, okay. Let me find out. You got a little jazz number there. You can play.
What has surprised me is how hungry people are to learn about the family. That I see a hunger there, and that's why I think we get pretty good participation at the reunions because people want to get to be family because we're so pulled apart by everything else, and the family thing is a thing that we can hold on to, you know. But we have to keep doing it. We have to keep coming together, because if we don't keep coming together, we're gonna lose family. We won't be no family. You know, we'd be just out there like nomads. Yeah. But that's the thing that surprised me. I see the hunger. I see the hunger there for people wanting to be family. Yeah.
I looked at you, you stole my heart. You're all that I anticipated.